Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features Wolverine number 46, cover dated late September 1991. The cover is penciled by Marc Silvestri, inked by Hilary Barta. That means that Dan Green was over busy with the interior 18 pages of story and art. And the cover caption is "Home is the Hunter." This is an intriguing cover. The design, this kind of like triangular type design, is one that Silvestri is very keen on, where there's a figure standing atop a type of hill or mound. It's one that he goes to quite a bit and something that he derives from Frank Frazetta in particular. It's a very nice cover. I like it. I like the poses on Wolverine and Sabretooth, but it will turn out to be very intriguing who this armored figure is atop this mound of tentacles and what exactly is being represented here on the cover. So let's open this one up to the splash page. It's an excellent splash page. We have the title of the story. It's the same as the cover caption, "Home is the Hunter." And the creative team down here, Larry Hama script, Marc Silvestri pencils. So Silvestri is back doing full pencils rather than just breakdowns. Dan Green on inks, Steve Buccellato colouring, and Pat Brousseau on the letters. So in Wolverine's first person narration, we just get a kind of catch up on the story so far, more or less. And then we have him ask rhetorically, what say we call a truce while we sort all this out? Because at the end of the previous issue, the Hunter in Darkness, the character monster from issue number 34, that classic story set in northern Canada, is freed from Parvenu's cage. And now we have Wolverine, Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike. They're focused on Wolverine, but now there is this other figure, the Hunter in Darkness, that has entered the scene and is ready for a big fight. So really excellent work on this splash page by Silvestri. It's clear to me that he's got that bit more time for the pencils throughout this issue. I like the work on the backgrounds as well. The story set in Midtown Manhattan. It's not really usual to see Silvestri drawing stories set in a city, so he does a really good job on the background buildings and architecture as well as perspective. Let's continue with the story. So another really nicely designed and laid out page here. We're getting to the point where Silvestri is taking a look at Jim Lee's artwork and he's beginning to incorporate bigger panels and anchor images into his layouts. So that's what we have in particular on this page. And yeah, as I said, it's the era of Jim Lee's star in the ascendant. And next month, in August, he's going to sell 8 million copies of Adjectiveless X-Men #1, and Marc Silvestri wondering about how he can see some of the same sales numbers as Jim Lee. So little alterations in his artwork. We begin to see some cross-hatching going on, little hints of cross-hatching in Dan Green's inking, which becomes more prominent in the subsequent issues on the title before Silvestri jumps ship from Marvel to go to Image. So Sabretooth here is still convinced that Wolverine is his biological son, even though that's been proven otherwise by S.H.I.E.L.D. And he's determined to rip out Wolverine's throat, and he's going to do it with those big teeth. And Lady Deathstrike, of course, she's honor bound, or she conceives herself to be honor bound to kill Wolverine in order to avenge the death of her father. So Wolverine here says, throat ripping and bone tearing, something that neither of you is likely to do until you get the best of me. So now he goes into one of his berserker furies. They give it their best shot. He says in his first person narration, they're on me like a steel trap and I'm straining so hard. There's a sound coming out of the heart of me that can't be heard by human ears. It's a sound that rings in the hunter's dim grey memory, linked with a scent, my scent. This is really good storytelling as we get this close-up on the Hunter in Darkness's canine eyes, and we have the sense that whatever way his memory works, he's flashing back all those years ago in Canada, up in Buffalo Woods National Park. I was a wild thing then. And this is in the immediate aftermath of Experiment X, and that has been coming out serialized in Marvel Comics Presents over the previous few months. And at this point, Hama responds to Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X story. So this is before Wolverine was pulled from the wilderness naked by Heather Hudson and James Hudson, taken into their care and becomes their friend. So yeah, he had this encounter with this monster in the Great White North, but he wasn't so wild as to feel no pity for a suffering beast. So he released the Hunter in Darkness from the bear trap, and the Hunter remembers. So he's going to attack Sabretooth and Deathstrike in a animal repaying of the debt he knows he owes Logan. So it's good stuff. Great colouring by Buccellato as well, because remember, this story is set during a blackout in Midtown Manhattan. So the shades of the colours befits that nighttime blackout setting. So now Jubilee has been tagging along with Wolverine. She was down in the crowd, saw everything that happened. She's racing up the external fire escape, very much like Carrie Kelly here in the art. And I'm guessing that that's not lost on Silvestri either. Jim Lee's redesign of Jubilee's outfit, let's call it that. So she climbs up to the rooftop of the apartment building, and who's there except for Wolverine? And he has taken a beating from the fight with Deathstrike and Sabretooth, so he topples over the edge of the building and lands there on the fire escape. So Jubilee aghast, and then she climbs down towards him to pick him up and says, "Look, Wolvie, I know you've got an adamantium lace skeleton and a mutant healing factor. That's news for any new readers of this issue. But this getting sliced up every other night has got to stop." So Wolverine, typically macho, says, well, actually not typically macho. He says here, "You think I enjoy this, darling?" And she responds, he continues to say, "Look, dust me off a little and push me back in the direction of the fracas." So it's kind of like, it's an admission that he doesn't enjoy fighting for the sake of fighting, and he doesn't enjoy getting stabbed and slashed, but he is determined to get up there and help out the Hunter in Darkness, which was his aim in the previous issue. And Jubilee here says, "Chill out for a second, let me scope this out." So she wants to get up to the top again, peep over the edge of the ledge of the rooftop, and she sees in the darkness during the blackout this hideous silhouette of the Hunter in Darkness slashing away at Deathstrike, and Sabretooth there as well. So she decides to put some illumination on the subject using her mutant fireworks, and then we get to see what's going on here. So there's a real slash and claw fest happening on that rooftop, and Wolverine is back up to the fight as well. "Excuse me, darling," he says, "gotta go cut the Hunter some slack." And Jubilee replies, "It doesn't look like he needs your help, Wolvie, because he is a savage canine type beast, lupine beast, deep in the bowels of the city." So this is a subplot that's going on here with Albert and LCD. Albert is the one who caused the blackout in Midtown Manhattan because he needed the main trunk line, which he's going to use in order to power up LCD, but he has a plan to create, he's already built a particle accelerator, and that's why he needs the main trunk line to power it. And so he's got his plans and schemes there, and you can see he's delighted with the prospect of having a battery for LCD that will get her up and mobile again. I really like that upshot. I like the lighting, the spotting of blacks on Albert's scarred and hideous face. And then we're back with the main action in Midtown Manhattan. Wolverine up there tackling Sabretooth while Lady Deathstrike is busy with the Hunter in Darkness. And Sabretooth says to Wolverine, "You got in some lucky licks there, boy, but I've had about my fill of slashing and tearing, pleasurable as it may be. I reckon it's time we got to the main event." So he gets Wolverine right over the edge of the ledge of the apartment building rooftop. That's a really excellent top-down angle there. 1 point perspective, actually 2 point perspective from Marc Silvestri there. Really, really good stuff. And yeah, you can see there Sabretooth getting ready to slash Wolverine's throat, but he's himself shot. It looks like in the shoulder, or is it in the chest? And that reminds us that there's another player out there in the darkness, and it's this sniper, this particular woman set up in the previous issue. Her real aim is to shoot and kill the Hunter in Darkness, but obviously she's tagged Sabretooth by mistake. Hit the wrong one, she exclaims. Lucky I can hit anything at all in this light. It's so dark and they're moving so fast. And she's taken by surprise at Deathstrike. Can't none of them be human? And she shoots Deathstrike there, which knocks her off the side of the building. Again, we get that great perspective shot of her falling between the two apartment buildings all the way down to the street with the dumpster down there as well. Great detail in Silvestri's art. As I said, he's doing full pencils on this, unlike the previous couple of chapters. And now we get a nice 3/4 profile close-up on the woman. And doesn't she look a lot like Ballistic of Cyberforce? My thinking is that Silvestri reuses the design for this woman for Ballistic. And she's getting ready to target another one of the combatants. She's going to shoot them, get them out of the way before she concentrates fire on the Hunter in Darkness. Of course, Jubilee is there, so she sends a volley of fireworks in the direction of the sniper, which blinds her. There goes her night vision, she says. And also we get illumination of the Hunter there, Wolverine and Sabretooth. That's a really nicely designed panel. See what I was saying about we're getting more anchor images in Silvestri's art, less panels per page, and really great shots like this. Excellent spotting of blacks as well. Sabretooth says, "Dumb girl can't shoot for beans. Why don't you just waltz right over here and blow what that critter's brains out the back of its head so as I can get back to killing my son?" So Sabretooth, as I said earlier, convinced that Wolverine is his son. We're going to get some light shed on that towards the end of this particular issue. That's a great upshot there of the Hunter in Darkness leaping off the top of the apartment building over to another one. And Wolverine explaining to Sabretooth, survival instincts kicking in, Sabretooth. It knows when to back off and run from a fight. Nothing civilized standing in his way like pride. And Sabretooth says, well, if he's gone, we can call off that fool girl and her high-power rifle, but she's not to be called off. So she sends off another round there. It absolutely smashes through this chimney stack. Wolverine just dodging it in time. I think she's beyond that, he says. Let's continue with the story. And now we're going to get her backstory. And this is really interesting. It turns out that she's the daughter of the Mountie, the old Mountie from issue 34 of Wolverine, from the original Hunter in Darkness storyline. And she has come for vengeance because her father was consumed by his experience one night. He was fine until the first encounter he had with you up in Buffalo Woods. He said he shot a forest spirit, something the Blackfoot called the Hunter in Darkness, because he was confused that Logan, a naked Logan wandering after Experiment X, was the Hunter in Darkness. He said that whatever it was, it turned back to look at him after it was shot, and all he could see in those eyes was something this side of pity. Everybody else said this thing ate his soul, she says. Now, interesting here, Silvestri saving some time where he's drawing these panels fully, and then we're just getting photocopy and zoom in. Number 2, number 3 on this side of the flashback, and 2 and 3 this side of the flashback as well. So that would save some time in respect of getting the pages done for this issue. Here we've got another one of these big anchor images of Wolverine getting shot in the bicep there, it looks like, the bottom of his bicep, or the side of his bicep really. And he says to her, "I know who you are. You've got the story all confused." And we know that from reading issue 34. Sabretooth says, "Feeling real bad, son. That ain't no off-the-shelf ammo she's pumping into us." And Wolverine continued, Dulan, your father was Sergeant Dulan of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. There we go, there's the reference to 34. You're both right, she says. I'm Emmy Dulan, so she's his daughter, and I'm shooting hand-loaded mercury tips. Wolverine, get this nice close-up on his eyes, narrowed eyes there, poison bullets. No wonder my mutant healing factor is overloaded. And here comes the really interesting bit of this story, where he starts hallucinating, and the hallucination is shared by Sabretooth, and they see Emmy Dolan now as a wrangler from Experiment X. No wonder my vision is going bananas on me. Wolverine says, I ain't the hunter, Emmy, but I knew your dad. And she replies, I know, you were there when he died. And Sabretooth sees her as a wrangler. Trank gun toting, electric cattle prod poking, stinking security goon wrangler. And we have seen them, plenty of them, in Barry Windsor Smith's Weapon X. So Logan here is taken by surprise. You're seeing the same thing. What is this wrangler that she's turned into? And he was about to ask, how do you know? But she sends off another round. My dad didn't have influence in Ottawa like you did. She says he could have been promoted out of the field, but he stayed on out in the woods because he thought he might run into the hunter again. He had to, you see. It was eating him up. His brief encounter with the unknown had been so unsatisfying, she says, which is an interesting word to use at the end of that sentence. He had a full inspector's funeral, you know. This is after 34. They said he died a hero, bringing in Athabasca Ike, but my dad's friends in the Mounties said that Ike had been ripped apart by claws. They said there had been a cover-up because somebody named Logan had been involved. They tried to sweep it under the carpet, but I knew deep inside that it was the hunter in darkness who killed my father. Then, last week, I opened the paper and I knew what I had to do. Blam. So, another one of these pages, it is the mirror image of this one. We have the flashback in the middle 3 panels, and we have a photocopy and zoom in on the first panel here, and again here, and here, and here as well, as she's shooting, firing away at Sabretooth and Logan. And now Logan gets a full hallucination flashback to Experiment X. But his memory's confused about Experiment X. It's readers of Weapon X who know what's going on here. And this is really intriguing. So notice also how the panel border kind of flows into the hallucination. Got to give my system time to filter out this heavy metal, he says, before these visual side effects get any wilder. And again, it's so intriguing that it's a shared hallucination. Sabretooth is seeing the same thing. Where did these weird trees come from? He says, ain't no trees. And Wolverine says, visual analog of suffusion chelation bath. So that is the tank he was in when the adamantium was bonded with his skeleton in Weapon X. Yeah, anything you say, bub. I had to kill the hunter in darkness, Emmy says. It's all his fault, you see. This wrangler ain't got his dial on sedation, says Sabretooth Logan. He's cranked up all the way to termination. So the implication is that Sabretooth was part of Experiment X as well as Logan. That there were other subjects. I have to do this, she says. It's the only way I can make myself feel better. And meanwhile, Sabretooth finds he can't move. Keep going. He says, this is really interesting. He says, keep going. I'm buying the farm this time around. And Logan says, no, can't leave you. You're my... And he was about to say... He's stuttering on P. Say it, Logan, says Sabretooth. And Emmy's about to fire the kill shot here, straight in Logan's face. I'm sorry, she says. And then she's knocked to one side by Jubilee arriving. And we're out of the hallucination. But what was Logan going to say? Was he going to say pop or was he going to say partner? Because Sabretooth uses the word partner for Logan within the hallucination. So it is intriguing what is going on here. So I like this line from Jubilee as well in Hama's dialogue. She says to Emmy Dolan, "You're about to be bruised, abused, and contused." That's good. Another one of these nice top-down angles on the rooftop. So, of course, Emmy is an adult woman, and she uses the butt of her sniper's rifle to hit Jubilee in the face. That's got to hurt. Wolverine alert to it. He's on his way. But Sabretooth here looking absolutely wild in the art. It's here that he uses the form of address, "Partner. We can do it, partner. We can get out of this place," to blazes with their project. And Logan says, "Let go." And Sabretooth responds, "I know a way to block the Thorazine. If we can think straight, they can." So this is all intriguing. Sabretooth was part of Experiment X, and in some scenarios he regarded Logan as a partner. We'll see Jim Lee develop on that in issues 5 to 8 of 4 to 7 of Adjectiveless X-Men in some months' time. Intriguing stuff. And Logan asks their partner, "What happened to Sonny Boy?" So this is Hama undoing Claremont's plot. Claremont intended it to be revealed that Sabretooth was truly Logan's father, but Hama now undoing that and using Weapon X as a vehicle for that. Now, whether the decision to undo the filial relationship between Logan and Sabretooth goes to Bob Harris, let's say, maybe, is unknown. But it's being undone here. So back with Emmy Dolan, she's still swinging that rifle around. She's going to knock Jubilee in the back of the head, which would not be very good for Jubilee. And Logan's just there in the nick of time to cut right through the rifle. And he knocks it out of her hand, saying it's over. And she's about to punch him, but she's punched out by Jubilee. So Jubilee getting revenge for having been hit in the head with the butt of the rifle there. And Jubilee knocks her right out. Despite being only 13 and a half. But you can see there that she's hurt her hand in doing so. And I like the little cartoony stars there as well, showing that Silvestri, is not afraid to use the full array of comics language, not so serious as to not use cartoon type stars. So again, another one of these anchor images. We only have 3 panels on this page. Like I was saying earlier, this is Silvestri studying Jim Lee and having that influence coming through now on his layouts and style. And Wolverine explains here about the mercury and how it overloaded his system, must be linked to the adamantium bonding process. So he's musing away there. Had some bizarro hallucinations, he says. Pushed some real strong deja vu buttons. Wranglers the project. Sabretooth seems to be seeing the same weird stuff. He's part of my past in more ways than I know if I can get him to. But Sabretooth is gone. He's disappeared. Really like that panel. Like all the musculature there on the back of Wolverine's neck. It's really good stuff. And then we are at the last couple of pages. So Deathstrike landed in that dumpster from earlier and she's pulling herself out. It's kind of cartoonish in a way. She's got a banana skin there on her skull cap. And who arrives except for Ronald Parvenu? He always talks about himself in the third person. He has had a weirdo romantic relationship with Deathstrike when she was going by Yuriko. And he says to her, "Nobody's ever taken Ronald Parvenu for a ride. I think we can talk." So where is that plot going to go? Last page now, back with Albert and LCD. So he's working away on her and they hear this scream from the tunnels. "Albino alligator," says Mask. "Something wandered into the wrong tunnel and became a part of the food chain. Those gators can chomp through a large Morlock faster than..." And Albert identifies the sound as coming not from an albino alligator winning. Something else is out there, he says. Something that hunts. So the hunter in darkness has found a new hunting ground in the sewers and tunnels beneath Manhattan. We get a nice little signature there from Silvestri in green. It's July 1991. and I bet you they felt like champions because they're done with the bi-monthly schedule over the last 3 months. So they're going to get a break with the next issue, and then they're back with issue 48, which will pick up on the whole Experiment X stuff. Wolverine goes to investigate that. Of course, got a comment on the ad for Adjectiveless X-Men #1 here, a panel from inside that issue. Really nice to get to see it at the time in the blackline art without the distraction of the color. So you get to see all of the detailed work, all of that cross-hatching that I was talking about earlier in Scott Williams inks over Jim Lee's pencils. And this is simply the advertisement, X-Men #1, Jim Lee and Chris Claremont. Look for it this August. And there we go. So we've got a one-page ad here for Reign of Terror by Peter David and Andy Kubert. They really kind of hyped that one up over the last few months. Letters page here concerning Wolverine 42. This particular correspondent unhappy with Weapon X. However, I've begun to suspect that the second, more haphazard approach might be prevailing regarding Logan's origin. Might be prevailing after reading an interview with Windsor Smith, in which he not only expressed contempt for using a character's past continuity, but also admitted that he didn't even check with Chris Claremont before starting on Weapon X. Is he a loose cannon? Does Claremont or Hama or Harris or DeFalco have a complete Wolverine origin so that things don't get messed up in a matter as important as Wolverine's origin? Who's in charge up there? Now, this correspondent is wrong about Windsor Smith. Windsor Smith did call up Claremont, did talk to Claremont about what Claremont's plans were for Wolverine's origin, and wrote in the fact that the Professor in Weapon X is calling into a higher up, and that was intended as a nod towards Claremont's plan that Apocalypse would be the one ultimately responsible for Wolverine getting the adamantium laced to his bones. So there you go. And also there's a little signposting here in relation to issue 48 concerning the whole business of Wolverine and Sabretooth and what their relationship might be. I do hope that you enjoyed this review and commentary on Wolverine #46. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review, please like the video on YouTube and share it also. It really does help the channel. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.